5 signs you're doing better financially than the average American, the wealth you can't see. What if you're doing better financially than you think? You don't drive a supercar. You don't live in a mansion. You don't wear a watch that costs more than most people's cars. And maybe your bank account doesn't look impressive enough to post on social media. But here's the uncomfortable truth about wealth. Real financial progress is often invisible. While millions of people are chasing bigger salaries, bigger houses, newer cars, and more expensive lifestyles, some of the financially strongest people are doing something much less exciting. They're paying down debt, they're building savings, they're investing, they're acquiring assets, and perhaps, most importantly, they're learning to be satisfied with what they already have. According to a recent list popularized by personal finance expert Dave Ramsey, 5 habits can separate someone who is financially healthy from someone who is constantly struggling. And the interesting part, none of these habits require you to be rich. They require something much harder: discipline. So today, we're breaking down 5 signs that you're doing better financially than the average American. And the 5th one may be the most powerful of all. Sign number 1. Your debt is going down. Let's begin with something that doesn't look impressive on Instagram. Debt reduction. Imagine 2 people. The first person earns $100,000 a year, but they have a massive car payment, expensive credit card, balances, personal loans, and almost nothing left at the end of the month. The second person earns $60,000, but they're steadily eliminating their debt. Who is financially healthier? The answer isn't necessarily the person with the bigger paycheck, because income tells you how much money comes in. Debt tells you how much of your future income has already been spent. When you reduce debt, you're doing something incredibly important. You're buying back your future. Every credit card balance you eliminate means less interest. Every loan you pay off means more flexibility. Every monthly payment that disappears gives your future self more choices. And that's what financial progress really is. More choices. The source article points to the scale of America's debt problem, citing Experian's analysis that average debt per person was more than $100,000 across all debt categories. But don't let the number overwhelm you. You don't have to eliminate everything overnight. If your debt is smaller than it was 12 months ago, if your credit card balance is falling, if you're making extra payments, if you're finally refusing to borrow money for things you don't need, you're moving in the right direction. Because wealth isn't only about what you own, it's also about what you no longer owe. Sign number 2. You have money left after payday. Here's another sign that you're getting ahead. You don't spend every dollar you earn. For millions of people, payday is essentially a reset button. The money arrives, bills are paid, subscriptions are charged, shopping happens, restaurants happen, unexpected expenses appear, and suddenly the account is almost empty again. Then the next paycheck arrives, and the cycle repeats. But financially healthier people begin to break that cycle. They create something extremely powerful, a gap between income and spending. Maybe it's only $50, maybe it's $200, maybe it's $1,000. The amount matters less than the habit, because that gap becomes savings, and savings become security. Imagine your car breaks down tomorrow, or your phone dies, or an unexpected medical bill arrives. If you have no savings, the emergency immediately becomes debt. But if you've built an emergency fund, the same problem becomes an inconvenience. That's a massive financial difference. The source material notes that around 3 in 10 Americans have more credit card debt than emergency savings. That tells us something important. Financial stability isn't simply about earning more, it's about creating a buffer between yourself and financial disaster. So ask yourself, if my income stopped tomorrow, how long could I survive? 1 week? 1 month? 6 months? The bigger that number becomes, the stronger your financial position becomes, because savings don't just buy things, savings buy time. Sign number 3. You are investing for the future. Saving money is powerful, but saving alone isn't the entire game. The third sign you're doing better financially is that you're investing for your future. Think about it this way. If you keep every dollar in cash, inflation slowly reduces what that money can buy. But when you invest appropriately for your goals and risk tolerance, your money has the potential to grow alongside your contributions. And the most powerful force isn't necessarily how much you invest. It's time. Consider someone who starts investing early. They don't need to make spectacular moves. They don't need to predict the next hot stock. They don't need to become a Wall Street expert. They simply contribute consistently and give compounding time to work. That's the part most people underestimate. At first, progress can feel painfully slow. Then, something changes. Your returns begin generating returns. Your investment balance begins growing because of both your contributions and previous growth. And eventually, your money begins doing some of the work. That's why retirement investing is more than a financial transaction. It's a vote for your future self. Every contribution says, I don't need all of today's money today. And that mindset separates consumption from wealth building. You are essentially telling your future self, I'm thinking about you, even though I can't see you yet. Sign number 4. You are building assets, not just a lifestyle. The fourth sign is home ownership. Now, this one requires an important qualification. Owning a home isn't automatically a sign of financial success. A house purchased with an unaffordable mortgage can become a financial burden. But if home ownership fits your circumstances and you can afford it responsibly, it can represent something important. Building an asset over time. The challenge is that buying a home has become significantly more difficult. The source article cites Federal Reserve data showing the median U.S. home sale price reached about $410,700 at the end of June, while mortgage rates have remained elevated compared with much of the previous decade. For many Americans, the dream of owning a home now requires substantially more income and savings than it once did. That's why this sign isn't simply, do you own a house? The deeper question is, are you building assets instead of constantly increasing your consumption? Maybe you're saving for a down payment. Maybe you're investing in retirement accounts. Maybe you're building a business. Maybe you're acquiring productive assets. The principle is the same. Financially successful people gradually move from what can I buy to what can I own, because things you consume disappear. Assets have the potential to produce value long after the initial purchase, and that distinction is one of the foundations of wealth. Sign number 5. You are content. This may sound strange, but it could be the most important sign on this entire list. You're content with what you have. Think about how the modern economy works. There is always another upgrade, a better phone, a bigger house, a newer car, a more expensive vacation. a designer wardrobe, a better neighborhood, a more impressive lifestyle. And social media makes the comparison almost impossible to escape. Someone is always ahead of you. Someone has more money. Someone has a better house. Someone is traveling somewhere you've never been. Someone is driving something you can't afford. And if you allow that comparison to control your spending, there will never be enough. This is where financial contentment becomes incredibly powerful. Contentment doesn't mean you stop having ambitions. It doesn't mean you stop investing. It doesn't mean you refuse to improve your life. It means you stop confusing more with better. Because if every increase in income immediately creates an increase in spending, you'll never feel rich. You can earn $50,000 and feel poor. You can earn $100,000 and still feel poor. You can earn $500,000 and still feel poor. The number keeps moving, the finish line keeps moving, and eventually you realize something. You weren't chasing wealth, you were chasing the feeling that wealth was supposed to give you: freedom, security, peace, control. And perhaps the greatest financial advantage is reaching a point where you can say, "I have enough." That's when lifestyle inflation begins losing its power over you. The bigger picture. Now look at these 5 signs together. You're paying down debt. You're building savings. You're investing for retirement. You're acquiring assets, and you're becoming content with your life. Notice something? None of these require you to look rich. In fact, someone doing all 5 might look completely ordinary. They might drive an older car. They might live below their means. They might avoid expensive vacations. They might not post their financial life online. But underneath the surface, something very different is happening. Their financial foundation is getting stronger. And that's the difference between looking wealthy and becoming wealthy. Looking wealthy requires money today. Building wealth requires discipline for tomorrow. The 5-step financial scorecard. Oh, here's a simple test. Ask yourself 5 questions. Number 1, is my debt decreasing? Number 2, am I consistently saving money? Number 3, am I investing for my future? Number 4, am I building assets instead of simply accumulating possessions? Number 5, am I becoming more satisfied with what I already have? If you can answer yes to most of these questions, you may be doing much better financially than you realize. And if you can't, don't panic, because financial progress isn't about perfection, it's about direction. You don't have to transform your finances in 1 month. You need to make one better decision, then another, because small wins create momentum. Momentum creates habits, and habits, repeated over years, can create something much bigger. Wealth, the quiet definition of success. The world teaches us to measure success by what people can see: the car, the house, the clothes, the vacations, the lifestyle. But money doesn't work that way. The most important financial victories often happen behind closed doors. The credit card balance you finally eliminated, the emergency fund you quietly built, the retirement contribution you made when nobody was watching, the asset you purchased instead of another luxury, and the moment you stopped comparing your life to everyone else's. That's real progress. So if you're doing these 5 things, don't underestimate where you are. You may not look wealthy, you may not feel wealthy, but if your debt is falling, your savings are rising, your investments are growing, your assets are increasing, and your desire for more is becoming quieter, you're building something far more valuable than an image. You're Building freedom, and that is the kind of wealth that actually matters. This is Power Chronicles, where we don't just talk about money, we decode the decisions behind it. Subscribe for more financial stories, wealth-building strategies, and powerful money lessons, because the goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to become financially free.